go?
Well, I think for
just like how like, you know, environment growing up. What was
growing
it like?
Up, I was like obviously one older sibling, Justin, mum and dad. Dad like played footy, senior footy for a team called Claremont. Like played a couple of hundred games. Was kind of in my family. My uncle was lucky enough to play a few games at Hawthorn. That's on Matthew Wade's side of the family, so his dad. So sport was always something that was really big. The competitive side of things got out of hand at times, which my wife happily reminds me about. But growing up, we lived in a small coastal town, so if we weren't, well, we grew up in 5 acres, so if we weren't kicking footies or hitting golf balls, we're probably out in the water on the boat, catching fish, very outdoorsy, like a lot of experiences, and all the family would do that. So growing up was great. Like you kind of had the luxury of all things. Thankfully, there wasn't any phones getting around.
It wasn't before then. So do you think much about that?
I think so, because
you know what I mean. Before,
even and I'm guilty of it as well. Like even if you just drive around, you just watch everyone's like eyes are locked on a phone. Like we go out and train. You go into the change rooms. There's 40 guys all not talking to each other because they're on their phone, and then they're sending each other stuff. I'm like, why don't you just talk? Yeah. But I think that's just the climate that we live in now, and it's not a great one for socialising, but I think we were blessed in growing up because we feel like we had the best of everything. So my childhood was great. Like I said, never missed out on anything, but sports was a massive thing that was a part of it. Still is. Everyone's still highly competitive on both sides of the family, which is good. And relationships are really strong on both sides as well, so it's something that we've been able to keep really strong throughout my entire life so far.
Do you see yourself more as like a country boy? Like, do you think much about like?
Well, definitely, yeah. So, like, even like, probably touched on it before. I never had neighbours before I moved to Melbourne. So it's just like, well, we only had 5 acres. So like, if you think about 5 acres in Melbourne, how far are you got to get that? So I think, like, and that was the good thing about it. Like, my brother had a dirt bike. Again, everything was spent outside. Like, so you just constantly had activities, doing things. So, and my auntie and uncle, I think they've got about 6,000 acres. So that's dad's sister, and like we spend a fair bit of time on there as well. And farm life, as brutal as it is, like we only got small touch points. We go up there a few days a year, but they're the ones who probably put in the backbone and put in all the work. It's pretty hard caper, and they do really well. But anytime we have droughts like we're having at the moment, it certainly struggles.
So farm sort of stuff. So you're out there. Do you think it shaped who you are in itself? You know, like that environment. Because like I was saying before, I talk to a lot of sort of like musicians, artists, and I like sort of reflect on like how environment sort of gets them going in a creative sense. You know what I mean? Like where they are space wise, and how that makes who they are and what they make and that sort of thing.
Well, I think for me, like humble beginnings certainly has an impact on how you see things, what the environment you're going in. Like I said, I was competitive, but I was never the best at anything. Oh, really? So I was like,
school. What do you mean, like school wise?
So like footy teams and all that I was part of, I was never the best.
Really?
I was like, I was all right, and then tennis was like my go-to. I left footy for a little bit when I was like 15, and then I got into tennis, and that probably tested me out more mentally than anything. It's like I went from team environments my whole life to it's just me on the court against someone up the other end, and I really struggled with that. Got pretty frustrated when things didn't go my way and ended up giving it up, but I wasn't too bad at that. But the humble beginning stuff, I think that gives you like a bit more of a motivational drive to prove yourself. And I think when I got drafted at Melbourne, I still remember the conversation so clear with Dean Bailey before he drafted me. He's like, why would we pick you when I was a mature age? He's like, why would we pick you when there's high-end talent all across the country? Why you? And I just said, I was like, the competitive side for me is like, line me up against anyone else that you pick or think about picking, or anyone within the team, and tell me to get somewhere, and I'll guarantee I'll beat them. And he's just like, that's it, that's enough, that's all I wanted to hear. I was geez, I might have blown it here, because like, he wrapped it up pretty quick. And then sure enough, a couple of weeks later, they ended up drafting me at pick 33. So that was pretty cool. But then once I got there, it was like that was the starting line for me. So every session, every training session, I had some great role models there that showed me the way. But that's something that I still probably hold pretty close to myself, even the way that I carry myself now at 34. Still try and, be the ultimate competitor at game day, and also at training, and set myself up.
I always forget that you got picked up mature age, you know?
Yeah, so I was 20. So first year I was 21. I broke my leg when I was 18. Got cut from the under 18s. And then, funnily enough, I actually bounced back really quickly. Got back in like 8 weeks. And I ended up getting selected in the Tassie Devils side, which is the men's VFL team. So I got cut from the under-18s, but I was playing against the men. So I was playing against VFL listed and AFL listed players, but I wasn't allowed to play under-18s. So obviously I didn't get picked up that year. Played as an overage next year, didn't go any good, and then played senior footy when I was 20 in the best league in Tassie that was available, and managed to put together a good season and was lucky enough to get drafted at the end of that.
Yeah. Well, those teenage years sort of like, because obviously you've probably seen blokes you know or mates or something getting picked up at 18, 19. And I know you went into you were electrician for a bit or something?
Yeah.
Like what were those like from maybe like 16 or maybe as you got picked up, you know, what was going through your mind, I don't know, mentally, or just what you were thinking? Like, were you good at much else? Was there other avenues you were thinking?
I guess for me, like I actually did work experience as an electrician with a guy from like my local town, which was great, and I actually really enjoyed it, and that kind of made it. I kind of got a bit of a thirst for that. Like I was just like, the work life. A lot of my mates, even my brother and all that, they went into it. They all got trades, and that was kind of the natural thing that we did. I finished school in year 10. I didn't do 11 and 12, so I finished. Did my exams in mid-November, and then I started working the first week of December.
So you would have been like 16 at the
16,
time?
so I had to be picked up and driven everywhere from my house. So, but 16, started my apprenticeship. You learn pretty quick what it's like to be in the real world. So I'll still get my lunch pack for me. So that was a bonus. But I think working with a bunch of guys for that 4-year period was, I learned some pretty good life lessons. I met some really incredible people. And then I ended up getting drafted just shy of finishing my apprenticeship. And it's one thing that I probably regret not finishing. I came over, couldn't quite align. There was a couple of different modules and all that I had to sit and had to do night school. And I was like, ended up getting sweeped. And I was just like, it's probably not great. But all my mates and that were going through, had a few that were getting looked at. Probably back even then, Tassie there was pretty slim pickings for guys getting drafted. So the occasional ones were getting through. I think the year that I was going through was Mitch Robertson. He went through, and I played against him all the way from when I was 8 to 17. To watch him go through. Tom Collier was another guy that I played local footy with. Watched him get drafted to Brisbane. I was just like, it wasn't the be all and end all for me. Like, I played footy because I loved it, and all my mates were in the same boat. But then when it almost when you almost feel like it's a touch point, it's like, well, maybe I'll give it a crack. So then there was a bit of a shift mentally. I was like, well, I'm going to leave my local club, go to the best possible league I can, and just have a crack at it and see how I go. Like, it wasn't like if I didn't get drafted, it didn't matter. Like, I was still happy. But I think that mindset of not putting so much pressure on myself that every single moment mattered of any given day, like, I think that actually made me play better, play with more freedom. The enjoyment was still there, and I feel like I got the best outcome. Like, our team wasn't great, but I was lucky enough to get together a pretty good year. But I still had an unbelievable year, met some unreal people, and I was only there for 12 months.
Crazy. And do you look back? Because I think of like boys that sort of get into a club at 17, 18, not having that experience like in the outside world, and like you having that. Do you reckon that helped? Just who you were? Because I just think, I mean, it's hard. Like, you've been 18 and you just get thrown into a club, and then a lot of boys that you don't hear about that are out at like 20, 22. You know what I mean? And then they're having to like go through what boys are going through at 18 at like 25. Yeah. Well, you've probably heard of, I'm sure. Like, so,
yeah, there's heaps, because the average career is only like 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, you forget how many boys there are.
A lot of guys that come fresh out of school, go into the AFL system, whether they were doing studies or not. A lot of those guys that were studying, then you get drafted for 4 years, then you go out. All their mates that were still doing school, their studies and that, are ultimately 4 years ahead of them. Yeah. So they've got a leapfrog, and although, they got to be drafted for a few years, it didn't work out. But I think for me, having a taste of what it's like to be in the real world, I was like, there was still moments, there's no doubt, that I probably would have taken for granted what I was doing, like being drafted. But I think I had a greater appreciation of how lucky I was to be on an AFL list, considering that I've already worked for 4 years as an electrician.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I loved it. And I was more than happy to go back to it. But I'm like, now I've got a taste of what this is. I think the comparable, having something to look back on, you're not willing to give it up anywhere near as quick. When things don't go your way, you're like, well, you could always be an electrician again, or you can just dig your heels in and start going. So I was like, I think you just get a greater appreciation for what you have and how lucky you are when you're in it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I just think of so many of those boys that are out at 22, like how tough it must be.
And it's a regular occurrence. Like, to average,
you just don't hear about those guys. You know what I mean? Like,
no, you don't. And it's like, then they just got to pick themselves back up and figure out what's next. Because like a lot of the guys that especially get picked up early, it's footy. And then all of a sudden, it's like you get drafted for 3 years, then you fall out. That's probably the biggest ruder shock that you'll get. If you're lucky enough to play for 10, 12 years, you'd like to think you've developed a way where you kind of understand what you want to do.
Yeah.
At that age, it's still pretty broad in terms of where you're going to land.
Yeah.
And those guys, more often than not, are pretty unsure.
That's why.
Yeah,
it's hard, man. Do you feel like you'll do post footy?
Well, I've done some coaching courses that myself and Pendles did them a couple of years ago now, and I think if you're lucky enough to play for a pretty long time, you almost fall into a position where you're coaching the young guys coming through anyway. So
doing that, I feel like you're already.
Yeah, so I think like our list demographic at the moment, there's a lot of older guys, a lot of younger guys. The more experienced guys have a pretty big influence and impact on what the younger guys coming through and what that looks like. Our coaching staff are really open to players coaching players, and I think getting feedback from peers or education sessions from peers is like a really good tool to be able to fast track players. And I've been fortunate enough to be in that space. The coaches have allowed me to do that, even going back all the way through. Like J-Lo let me have control of the backs when I was injured in 2020, that probably started the itch for me to coach. I was like showing guys some vision or educating them stuff, then seeing them implement it on game day. There was like an element of fulfillment. I was like, shit, yeah, like this feels good. And that's probably what he started it. And that's 5 years ago. Like I wasn't sure how much longer I was going to play for.
Yeah.
So I think that's a common interest. I've got an interest in media. Like I like talking about the game and stuff like that, which is something that I've had a small dabble in, and that's potential. But like I wouldn't say I've got all my eggs in one basket. But I was like, I know that I've got to think about it a hell of a lot more than what I do. Used to being 35 in about a month. So
that's crazy. And what about like? I often think of like identity and stuff. Like, who do you feel like you are? Like, because everyone knows you as like Jeremy Howe the footballer, beyond footy. Like, because I know footy is one aspect, but that's just something that you're really good at and you fell into, and it's giving you fucking heaps. Like, do you think much about like that deeper of like beyond footy, that identity of like
Well, I think like I've got a beautiful wife and 2 kids now, and for me, like I think it's coming from another state. All my friends and all the people I know they're all footy experienced players. Like they've all come through the footy space. A lot of them have passed on and retired and moved on, but they're all family guys now. And like we catch up, and footy's like almost like it's pretty irrelevant. Like with those guys, it's like I'll get my footy fix, no doubt. But then I still. There's no doubt I'm still seen as just an AFL player, but like the friendship circles and the people that I have around me don't see that. So I think that's the important thing. Like the friendship circles that I've got, and the people that are close to me, you'd just like to think like I'm a good family man. I like hanging out with my friends and family when I can, and my wife's family's interstate, my family's interstate. So there's always a thirst to try and get them over and catch up, because that was something that I was from a really close family. Carly's got quite a large family as well, but the identity thing is because you're constantly getting feedback from people. What I mean. Like so everywhere you go, anywhere you go, they want to talk about footy.
How do you find it? Like how do you? Just
it can be overwhelming at times, especially like I'm more than happy if I'm on my own. I'll give anyone time of day and chat to them, as long as it's not impeding. Like when I'm about to walk into a game or something like that, like I'm in a hurry. But I'm like, it's more being approached with my family. So it's like if I'm out for dinner or. It probably sounds like you're being rude, but I'm like, if I'm out for dinner or I'm at the supermarket with my son and I was just doing normal casual things, I think there should be like an element of like, well, just let me be my dad, let me be a dad, or let me be a husband, let me kind of have my own space in a different realm. Like if I'm doing footy things and training, I was like, or I'm on my own, by all means, like knock yourself out. But I think like there's got to be like almost like a respect thing. Is like if I'm with my family, then I think that should be play on for me to be able to just chill out with them and spend the most valuable time with them. Because again, your family don't sign up for you to play AFL for 15 years. They just sign up for you, and then they feel all the highs, all the lows, and they experience it all. So it's the least you can do is like the time that you do get, make sure you make the most of it.
Because you would still want to have those moments with your kid, you know, when no one's coming up to you, where you're at the park or just doing normal. But that reinforcement, I couldn't imagine, like, because you are so much more obviously than a footballer. But like, because it's like, you know, I just think of like other people's jobs like that. You're not that thing, you know. You don't get like if you're a chippy or something, it's not like you go everywhere. People are talking about like or whatever it is, you know. Like,
but I've even got a lot of mates that have played footy in the past, and it's like you take your kids to the park, and they can barely chase their kids. Like they actually just because their bodies are banged up from previous experiences where you're not really going to get that from too many other jobs, but which is really hard because then all of a sudden it's like, well, who doesn't want to be chasing their kids around like when you're 40? But some people are incapable of doing that anymore because they've given themselves to another career and that's been stripped away. But I'd like to think I can still move around, and while I can, I want to maximise the opportunities while I can still do that. Because you just see like the enjoyment that it gives your kids. So there's still one that's not walking around yet, but that'll come soon. Hopefully I'm still capable.
And what about like I know your mum passed, and Collingwood did like a great video on that, and you've talked a little bit about it, but I'd love to know, like, you know, what you see in your mum and your dad when your mum was here, and your dad, and like those traits. And I just think also just like how you went through, because I think I've talked to people on here too, just like grief and everyone going through that differently, and there's no one way of going through a death or whatever it may be. Like, you know, it can take a year for some people, 10 years, whatever. There's no... Did you want to talk a bit about... I'd love to hear that, you know?
Well, like the relationship for my parents is like, I think, like something for me, like my relationship with Carly is great. But like I idolised my parents with the way that they treated each other, and they were happily married for 30 years before it happened, before Mum passed. And you just kind of knew that they were in it for good. Like it was just going to be one of those ones like, yep, they got each other. This is just like forever and after. It'll be them. And I think, like I grew up and everyone did. You'd have a lot of friends or where parents are split, and how much that can be really difficult. But I was fortunate enough to have both parents for 26 years, which was unbelievable. And like again, I touched on it before. Like we never missed out on anything. The moment that it happened is something that I was like, it always still stays with me. Like I was obviously in a place called Katherine, 400k south of Darwin, with my best mate, doing like a trip of a lifetime, and we're out of
off season.
And we did like the Gibb River Road, cruise through, and it took about 13 days. But I was out of reception for 6 days, and then the moment that I got it back was like 6 p.m, and then I found out at 6 a.m. the next morning. So I was like, that's when it happened. So I was like, if it happened 6 days prior, no one would have been able to contact me for the best part of a week, and I wouldn't have even known. But you kind of go into a sense of, because we were pretty fortunate in terms of family members and people that passing away, but we had a few of late, but that one obviously rocked me because like it's your mum, like it's one of the ones where you just assume everything will be fine and everything will be all right. But I blacked out for 17 hours. That's how long it took me to get home. So drove 400 k's to Darwin, flew out of Darwin to Melbourne. Carly picked me up from Melbourne, then she met me at the Melbourne airport, then we flew to Hobart. And I don't remember a thing. I don't remember my mate driving me to the airport. I don't remember flying to Melbourne. And I don't remember getting off a plane to get back on one. And then next minute I just open my door and the first thing I see is my dad.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew it was real, because I still didn't. I broke down and cried when they got told by my brother. But I don't remember showing any emotion for the best part of a day until I saw my dad in the house, and that's when I knew. I was like, this is real. This is real. And then how I dealt with it, I wouldn't, like I grew up in a whole kind of town and like almost like a culture where, you know, like everyone liked to have a good time and have a beer and stuff like that. Something like that happened, it was pretty full on. Like I would have drank for 10 days straight, to the point where I was like, you just don't remember going to bed. Like trying to just forget about anything, forget about the whole lot. Like I'm still an AFL listed player, but everything just got pushed. I was just like, I could not give a shit about anything else right now. Carly obviously stayed down with me. It was actually like, that immediate time was really, really hard. Speaking at your mother's funeral, like when you're mid-20s, like that was something that I really, really struggled with. And writing the eulogy, like writing about something that you should probably never really have to even think about. I struggled with that. And then there's still days now where there's definitely like behavioural shifts with how I went about things that impacted me. Like I was really, really angry. Like when you talk about grief, like I just wanted to blame something like all the time. I was just like, something's been taken from me and I don't know why. And I just built this inner anger up all the time. And I really struggled to deal with it. But again, like, my wife would have been like the number one support for me, and if I didn't have her and I lived here, I don't really know what that would look like, whether I would have retired and gone home, or I just don't think mentally I would have been stable to do my current job, be a footy player, even think about, like I didn't even think about the footy club and that or anything. And then it obviously got communicated and everyone started finding out, but then like we had players, staff members and that fly to Hobart, attended the funeral, and then it's like all of a sudden it's like you start letting people in slowly, and then all of a sudden you're like the weight starts getting stripped off you. So it's like,
do you think that helped, like opening?
I was quite pushy at the start. Like I was just kind of like phone away. I know people want to know or they want to support, but I was like, fuck it. I was like, I'm just going to deal with it how I can. Probably my biggest mistake was I thought making sure my dad and my brother were okay and not giving a fuck about myself was the best way to deal about it. But all I was doing was just jamming my emotions down, trying to just make sure that my dad and brother were fine, and just didn't worry about what I was doing or how I would be. And I reckon it had like a slow burn impact for a fair period of time where I just wasn't myself. I just wasn't as happy. Again, like that blame type stuff kept coming back through. So it was the most significant fork in the road moment for my whole life. And like there's still challenges that come with it. But then as soon as you like go away from like the blame and the anger, I reminisce about the fun times, our memories that we've created, like all the good stuff, how grateful I was for the 26 years that I had, not the 30 that I don't get. Like, so as soon as you start shifting your mindset into that space, it instantly makes you feel better. But yeah, again, like that, the first 12 months were really, really hard, and I never used to be able to talk about it at all. Really? Never. I was like, no way. I was like, I just couldn't do it because I just black out. Where I was like, you'd ask me a question, I'd probably just cry, and then I just wouldn't know what I'd say for the next 5 minutes.
But also just being in your mid-20s, you know, still trying to find yourself, and like, you know, maybe when you're, not that it gets any easier when you're 40 or 50 years old, but maybe you're a bit more equipped, like emotionally, you know, being 20, and I just couldn't imagine, like, you know, like. And
I think for me, it's like, it was a shock out of nowhere. Like, mum was healthy, she was fine, and then she had a heart attack at 56 in bed. I was like, where's that come from? So it's like instantly I went into that, who's to blame for that? Like, what's going on? It's like, how can you do this to me? And then being 26 and like pretty naive to a lot of things in the world, that was like the one thing that's forever changed probably the way that I went about things and felt. But again, now having my own family, it's one of those ones where you just got to try and cherish and maximise the opportunities you have, because like anything can be taken away at any given time. Not that you want it to at any stage, but the reality is that it can, and that rocked me more than anything possibly probably could for the rest of my life, I reckon.
So just really coming back to the moment and now.
So I think being present's clear. Like I think, like I live, even like with the current status that we do in AFL, like everyone's looking forward and it's results based and it's what are we getting or whatever, but it's like really hard to stay present, whereas I think our club do a really good job about just process, it's today, worry about today, don't worry about what's coming, focus on being the best part that you can be for today, for others, and then I'm sure things will take care of itself. It's a great way to think, and mentally it makes you feel a hell of a lot clearer. And it's like, it's probably something that I took a while to get, probably from away from footy, but as soon as you start thinking like that in everyday life, it's amazing like how much you stress less about so many things that 100%. You can't control. So
even just gratitude, and I try to do that daily. And there's some different do you have any practices that you do?
So we've got a whiteboard inside, and we label it every month. So I've got my section, Carly's got hers, Xander's got a section. Xander's fluctuates heavily, but ours are kind of things we have. Things are going to be organised. Like we still try to do date night. It's a little bit harder with a couple of kids, but we've got great people that can help out in that. Because like you kind of still want to date. Like I know we're married, but you still want to go out and enjoy each other's company, which is great for us. Like something that we've always still been pretty keen on doing. have highlights of the month, like just chucking them on the board, writing them up, what you appreciate, like what's going well for you, and then it's on the board, it's written there for you. Sometimes we do quotes, and then at the end of the month, take a photo, and then wipe it clean. New month starts.
Amazing.
And it's just the way you go. Like, and it's nice because it's in the kitchen, and like it's near the lounge room, so it's like you're walking past it 150 times a day.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's just constant little reminders where it's just like little feel-good moments, whether Carly writes something good or Zan has had a ripping week and he's loving it, and you see it and it's like, well, at least you feel like you're doing good things. And the small tokens of things like that, probably wish I started doing it a long time ago.
Yeah. But even like just being an AFL player, like everything's so, what you said, results based, even for you personally, like that must be hard, like always having a go, like, because like you said, I think what you were talking about before too, and I was talking to someone else on here about it, like, like when the people that you love and that sort of thing, like they don't care if you've had 30 touches or you've had 10, you know what I mean? Like like it's just who you are, you know what I mean? It doesn't like that stuff's great on top of I'm sure winning flags, accolades and all that stuff, but like like
I think it's again the surrounding of people around you is a great thing. Like because like again when you're talking about footy, like you can't help but feel like you're being judged all the time, regardless of what you're doing. Like even if I'm going to the park and Xander's carrying on, I was like, oh come on mate, let's go. I feel like you're almost being judged, or someone's instantly going to get feedback from somewhere. I'm just like so again, like I get the best of both worlds. I've got amazing relationships away from footy, although they are predominantly footy people, but everyone's kind of moved on from that, which is great. So, and everyone's got kids. Like we catch up with each other's families and just let the kids run rampant, and that fills in your weekends pretty quickly.
That's unreal. Especially, but I'm sure, like you said, you get to a point with your mates that are in footy, like with Riv and stuff, where you're not even talking footy. It's not even a thing anymore. Like it might have been in your 20s or whatever, but now it's just like life and just being.
We just move on. You move on, and then it's like I used to, like, don't get me wrong, footy was everything to me. Once I got drafted, I was like, yep, this is it. This is me. I can go home, I'm thinking about tomorrow, and I was like, I don't even want to leave the club. I'm doing an extra swim just because I feel like someone might see me.
Extra touch or that.
Like, I still put in the work, but I can't get home quick enough because I know what's there. I was like, I know my wife and kids are here, so I was like, get me home. There's still challenging days, and sometimes like my patience gets tested at times. Where that's where me and Carly are a good balancing act. Her patience are elite and mine aren't great, but I blame footy for that because no one's patient in footy.
Fuck, that's unreal. But what's success for you when you think of that? When you look at the 15 years just in life in general, like, I mean, because I think when people would ask you that question, it'd be like something footy related, which I'm sure, but like for you as a person, or like what is it? Did you want to?
I think success for me is ultimately is like being happy. I think as broad as that sounds, it's like, well, what's been happy for me is like I feel like having a beautiful family, ones that want to hang around with you and do things and activities with you. Success for me is still, I don't know, me and Carly are still like evolving in our relationship, still wanting to do things together. It's like everyone gets married and it feels like you just put the cue in the rack and then that's it. You kind of have kids and then your life becomes boring. I still want to be adventurous. We still want to do things, constantly trying to get better in different ways. Footy's always different. Like I feel like as long as I had continual improvement, I felt like I was succeeding in any given year. Everyone talks about flags. Well, flags will come and go. But again, like you might be in it for a short period of time, and then that's it. It's like as long as you're continually growing as a person, I think that's ultimately a success in my eyes. I probably wouldn't have thought about that younger days, but now that I'm 34, pushing 35, there's so many different things and avenues to be able to try and better yourself and better the people that you hang around. And again, I always keep coming back to it, but I'm surrounded by so many good people that I almost feel like I'm a success because of them. So it's like I always try and dish off as much what is it? It's kind of like anything that comes my way, I try and palm it off to the people around me, because ultimately they're the ones that shape you and make you, and that's who you are. So I think my parents had a huge influence, but the people that I hang out with here in Melbourne as well, they're equally just as good. You can really tell that like Hobart and like small town like shaped you and like that sort of. And that was like, I struggled. We used to call it the big smoke. I struggled when I first came over because everything's so full on.
Yeah,
busy,
how was it? Yeah.
Busy, hectic, traffic. I was just like, I should drive 30 k's to work and it'd take me 20 minutes. I was like, do 30 k's here. It's like, if I have to go steal side bottoms in queue, it takes me 55 minutes. Yeah, and and it's only like 16 kilometres. I still don't like that drive, by the way. But the adjustment was real. It was definitely, and I had a heavy reliance on my family coming over and visited me a lot.
Was it lonely at times? Just did you know many? I don't know. Like coming in, did you have nights where like I don't know, just especially early on, was it tough?
Yeah, because I was like, thankfully, like being mature age, I gravitated to a few more of the older guys in the team instantly that were kind of my age, maybe a couple of years older, like your James Frawleys and Jared Rivers. They took me in. Nath Jones, Jack Grimes, Jack Trengove, like all those kind of guys. Watsy, around similar age. A couple of those guys I mentioned were a bit older, but there was always something on post-training. So it was like dinners were on all the time, like something to keep your mind ticking. But there was moments where you're just laying in bed and you're just like, oh, fuck, I wonder what my other mates are doing back home. I was like, what are my parents doing? What's my brother doing? Yeah. And then like you feel there's an element of isolation, but then as soon as you get back into the club, you forget about everything. So there's always moments that you had like that. But I was, again, fortunate enough that I was well looked after by the more experienced guys and the guys I got drafted with. The only one that's still in the comp now is Tommy McDonald we both got drafted in Melbourne together.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
So it's still good to see him, still going well. Yeah. So, yeah, it all moves pretty quickly. And for the ones that can't quite adapt or don't quite feel comfortable enough, like it comes and goes so quick that it's gone before you even know it. So if there's any advice, it's like even if you're getting drafted or whatever it is and you're moving into state, it's align yourself to people that you think is going to be most beneficial for you, and then the rest takes care of itself. Yeah. Because no one can, maybe some can, but no one can perform at a really high level if you don't feel like yourself at all. Like
with unless you're
regardless if you're playing sport or not.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're not authentic or if you're not being yourself and you're wearing a bit of a mask, and regardless of what you're doing, you must be pretty good at hiding it if you're still performing at any level in any form of sport, regardless of job or whatever it is. Yeah. It's pretty difficult to do. So I think, thankfully, I was probably more directed in sport for this one. It's like we're going to a bit more towards positive reinforcement than stop just being told that we're no good at things and just like, you need to get better at this, you need to get better at that. Like, I think we live in a space now where it's like you get a lot more positive reinforcement, which therefore makes you feel better. If you feel better, therefore you're probably going to perform better. Yeah.
Also, I think a big one too, I don't know what you thinking of, but just on letting go and that sort of thing on things, like if it's the past or, you know, if it's on the footy field or anything, just like that constant of just like letting go of like those negative thoughts or letting go if you've just had a bad kick or letting go, like, you know what I mean, and just coming back to the present thing. That's for me anyway. I'm always sort of coming back to that, and you know, I
think it's really hard in different situations, there's no doubt. Like, and I think if I purely speak from a personal point of view for footy, I think the young guys in high performing areas, whether it's VFL, AFL, being put under the microscope with decision making, everything's judged. You got instant feedback on everything that you do. It took me a really long time to like, we talk about windscreen wipers, so it's like regardless of what's happened, wipe it away and reset and go again. Okay, that's easily said than done. But we have an environment where we don't, like, the mistakes are laughed at, where it's like, and it's shown and reinforced by our big leaders at the club, so the coach more than anyone, that mistakes are present, they're going to be there, it doesn't matter. It's nice to be told that, but it's also nice to be shown it. So it's like, as soon as you get the evidence to say, oh, he actually doesn't care if I make a mistake, then you instantly feel better, and then you can just, what's next? It's like, how can I move on? What can I possibly just put my focus into? And that's, you put all your energy into what's coming next. We do that really well at the club, and thankfully the coaches are super supportive of that, and your teammates as well. But I never used to be like that for me. I'd make a mistake and then I either would shy away from the next opportunity or try double down and try do something really, really good to try and counteract what just happened. And it's good for no one. It didn't work. Both had negative effects on the impact that it was having. But letting go is something that I think in any given space is probably really important. But it's like, again, it's easier said than done. I think you need evidence, and especially like you need some feedback or something to be shown that it's okay, and then to be shown that it actually doesn't matter. It's like, Because like we've all been in places where it's like it's all right, it's okay to make a mistake. Then you get whacked for making a mistake. Then you just go
back in your shell,
straight back down. And it's like, well, you said, and now I can't. So it's a constant learning process. But I feel for the young guys, because without experience, I feel like that's kind of what a lot of young guys would go back to. They're like, well, I don't want to do that again.
Do you think it's harder nowadays for younger boys coming in, just with how social media is? And I know you're talking about it on the phone, like, and people talk about it all the time, but I just find it comes up a bit when I chat to, different creatives and shit like that. With anyone, just this whole thing of, and you mentioned at the start, which is interesting, of like, you finish training, our outlet is just like, you go to your phone to send something to a mate that's sitting across from you or something.
Well, it's the most constant feedback tool that anyone's going to have is your phone, social media outlets, everything's recorded. Like, even we live in a space where it's like my local footy, which no one would have even heard of, all the games are filmed. Like, so they're all getting instant feedback as well, regardless of what level it is. Everything's being watched, everything's being judged, and then everyone's getting instant feedback on it. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, people crave it. And it's like it's a pretty dark route to go down, especially because there's the positives v the negatives. It's generally we live in a bit more of a negative space. I think, who was it? Hugh from the Resilience Project used to say, I think, everyone's 6 times more likely to focus on a negative than they are on a positive. And that's just how we're programmed.
100%.
So to rewire your brain and try thinking in a more positive manner, you got to practice being positive. So things of like gratitude is definitely a way that you can do that. 21 days in a row of practicing gratitude, you instantly start rewiring your brain. You start thinking in a more positive manner. Well, it'd be nice if everyone in the media thought about that.
Because it's
easy to, if you think about it, any given scenario, you're 6 times more likely to do it, and you live in a space where you're reporting. Well, it's pretty easy to just keep writing negative stuff because
that's what's get the clicks too,
and that's what you think about. But then also everyone else is wired 6 times more likely to think like that. So it's probably feeding them more than just going about the 1 in 6 in the positive stories. And arguably, it's probably the world that we live in. 1 in 6 is probably positive.
And that's going to get the clicks, and that's the things that people are drawn to. I mean, you look at the news media, like everything that's has that anger and like hatred gets more clicks. Like it's what.
Well, we had this conversation. Or even who was it? It was Darcy Moore. I can't remember who was having a chat with. It might have even been Jared, maybe. And we live in a space right now, especially for sport, that there's no level ground. It's the best of the best at the absolute top. Like, you put up on a pedestal, carry them around. How good are they? Or you're at the bottom of the seafloor.
So true.
Treated like, done, wiped out, get rid of them, and that's it. There's nothing in the middle. I was like, so if you're expecting, especially young guys, to not ride an emotional roller coaster, what are we doing? It's like there to there. It's like feel good, feel shit, feel great. How good am I? Then all of a sudden it's like, fuck, what am I doing? It's like, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore.
You lose yourself too, and it's hard, man. Like,
because like the feedback's given, whether it's from people that you like. It takes a lot of people to be able to like. I don't listen to a lot of stuff. Like, I've got social media, but I'm not sifting through stuff. And looking. I don't have Twitter anymore. I got rid of that about 5 years ago. It was a great sporting update tool. But then it was just like the amount of junk that was on there was just like way too overwhelming. So I got rid of that. Got rid of Facebook.
Still loves it.
Yeah, got rid of Facebook. Pendle's still an avid tweeter. But it's hard not to be like that because, again, like now, because everyone's stuck on their phones, like you just watch people go, they go Insta, flick around, scroll it off, and it's like Twitter, get done, feed it off, and then it's like something else, Snapchat, done, whatever.
And think of how many apps there are now. Like, as in, like, I've just got pretty much Insta, and I find Instagram like a lot already. And then there's, a lot of kids that are even younger than me have like, they've got Snapchat. There's like 5 different things sifted, and like, you know what I mean?
And there's so much junk out there, it's not funny. It's like, well, there's only so many things you can be interested in, but then you find yourself, like we talk about, going down the rabbit hole of just like, you're looking at stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, how did I even get here?
You lose like track, and it's just like 2 hours later.
So it's really hard, and I've always, like, I'm even fearful of, like, I've got a 3.5-year-old.
I was going to say, how do you...
And a 9-week-year-old. It's like, what's it going to be like in 15 years? Like, when they're, say, 12 and 15, what's it going to be like for them? Kind of half scares the shit out of me.
Because I work at this mental health clinic with kids and teens and that sort of thing. They've got different diagnoses, NDIS, that sort of stuff. And you just see it like a lot like even for parents, just to give their 5-year-old, which I completely understand. Like if you're a single parent and you just want your kids some quiet time, you just give them an iPad.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how there's the negative effects and how used to they get to that. Well, I just see like 3-year-olds and they know how to do that better than colouring. You know, it's
like even as a visual, and it kind of rips you to even think about it. Like my 3.5-year-old Xander, it's like he can, like I'll be on my phone and he could be having dinner or something. But then, like, if you put it down, he starts, like, mimicking, like, your thumb movements or, like, what you're doing. Yeah. So anything that you're doing, they pick up on so quick. And it could definitely have a negative impact. We'd like to think, like, the iPad will come out for us on a WA flight.
Yeah.
For Xander.
Because that
is hard. 6 hours. Like, he sleeps for 2 hours on the flight. But I can't expect him to sleep for 2. And ultimately, he's so energetic that it's like, no. Got to give him 2 hours. But outside of that, we go out for dinner, no chance. You're not getting phones, you're not getting iPads, nothing. It's like, and then you look around and no one's talking to each other. So like someone's on their phone, the husband's fixing the iPad, and then no one's chatting. I was like, why would you bother even coming out for dinner?
Exactly. I know. You see it even like on the train. I mean, there's times where I understand. But the one thing that comes up, I talk to a lot of people in here and they mention too, is like, you know, like as a creative, you want that almost boredom, or just in general, but like a lot of creators are saying, like, and I often think about it too, like we're not even bored anymore. You know what I mean? Like boredom, like a lot of things, like I find when I have those moments of boredom where you're just by yourself, some things like you have things that come up, like resolutions, or like you have these epiphanies and stuff, but nowadays you don't get that chance to be bored, because anytime you're bored, you just pull out,
you fill it with
and that's usually when the ideas come, or something comes, you know, I don't know.
Spontaneous ideas are pretty hard now, because we live in a comparable world where everyone's just looking for like almost like inspiration on their phone.
That's what I mean.
Waiting for something to go, oh, I can do that.
Exactly.
Because all it used to be, just you used to sit down, chill out, and then again, like probably what you touched on, some amazing idea will just come to you. Only the great ones probably can do that now. Because everything else, everyone's trying to find or better what else someone else has already done.
And comparison and that sort of thing too.
That's probably the best quote that I reckon I've ever heard, is comparison is the thief of joy.
It is.
And I had that written on the whiteboard for the first one that we ever did. I should have it written there all the time. And I should have it written somewhere on me. I was like, I got tattooed. I should get it somewhere. Because I feel like it is so true. And it's like, again, like where we're currently in and where we're living right now, everyone's comparing other lifestyles or what they have, what they don't. It's like he's doing this, I'm doing that, and I was like, well, who gives a fuck? And it's like I can struggle with it at times. It's like, well, he's way better than me, or he's got this, he's got that, and I was like, fuck, it's such a bad space to live in.
Yeah, man. Even so that's why I think going back to the process of things, like even like doing this, I just love the fact of just doing it, you know? Because I could easily, you know, it happens where you see another account, you're like, oh, why? And you know, or just whatever it is. But like, I just always go back to, and I think that's always the most important thing I find is like, if you enjoy the thing of like the process, where you don't give a fuck about how much you could get, one view, you could get one, whatever it is, whatever the statistic, like just go on. I don't know if you relate to it. I
can definitely relate to it. And it's like, and that's where I was like, we're so process driven at the club. Like we play for the biggest club in the country. West Coast potentially might argue that, but the spotlight's always on, and it's like we don't read into any of it. It's like, because we just worry about what we're doing on the day. So for me, the only thing I had to do today was do a bit of painting, and then I knew that I was doing this. I'm not thinking about tomorrow. And then tomorrow morning I'll rock up. First I'll probably think about having a coffee, and I just know that I was like, I just need to be locked in for training. I'm not even thinking about gym, which is in the Arvo. I was like, so to program yourself like that takes a bit of practice and time, but you definitely live a more mentally healthy lifestyle by not worrying or projecting forward or comparing, because I just don't think it puts you in a great frame of mind. Be here now.
Correct.
Right now.
That's amazing, man. And what about like when you've had personal, like when you're in a bit of a rut mentally, like what are things, I mean, you talk family and stuff, do you have other things that were like over your career or something? You know, it might be weeks or months or Well,
I struggled with, like, I've had 2 significant injuries that kept me out. When I broke my arm, that kept me out for, I was only about 14 weeks in the end, where you know, guys do their knees, and we've all had pretty bad injuries. They can be out for 12 months and more. Like when I did my knee in 2020, I was out of best part of 18 months. So
did that get lonely?
That was testing. Like Carly was there the whole time. She looked after me, but then it's probably even what we just touched on before. I was like, well, I can't train. I can't contribute game day. I was like, am I worthy to give other guys feedback because I'm not doing anything? So it's like how you see yourself in that state of being injured or struggling, or when you just don't see yourself in a positive light or in that kind of frame of mind. I feel like you question your own self-worth. So it's like when I get injured, it's like, do boys really want to hear from me?
Interesting.
Because I'm like,
yeah, it's funny how your mind plays tricks on
so it's like it does, and it's like, well, I'm not out there doing it, so why should they listen to me? Because I'm just in doing single leg press, and these guys are busting their backsides for 2.5 hours a week, plus training throughout the week. What am I doing? It's pretty easy to judge someone from the boundary line. And I was like, but they and I started like, it took me a while to try and get used to it because I was obviously injured for a fair while. I was like, then you start like, no. I was like, well, how can I have an impact still while I'm not doing what I used to be able to do? That's when the coaching thing came up. Started doing that. Boys started liking it. It made me feel good. All of a sudden, it's like everything started clicking again. It's but you challenge yourself, or it's how you see yourself really. When things aren't going well, how do you see yourself, and how do you feel like you can have any form of influence?
Because that's interesting,
I struggle with it really bad.
Because even like you think those periods when you're not playing, like you're not as, that identity of like how the footballer isn't on the forefront. Like maybe you're sort of seeing what it's like when you retire, you know, like where you've obviously had that career, but like you've taken a step, I don't know.
Even like when I broke my arm, probably the difference with that is I never knew that I was going to come back, nor did I ever think. Like we didn't plan on retiring, but we never gave a time frame. It's like I might not come back, and we're not having a time frame on it. So the way that it unfolded, like obviously when I got the infection and ended up having like 4 clean-outs, so it was like 5 surgeries in 12 days, in hospital for 11 nights, and that was like brutal. Like it was, I could not handle it. It was like 25 pills a day, and then ended up taking antibiotics for like 6 months to finish the year, and it fucked my guts. Ended up having to take pills to fix my guts, get off the antibiotics, and then like I've still got all the metal in there now. But I was like, just small things of having no pressure to come back. Like anytime you get injured, you're like, righto, there's a time frame. You're back by then. I was like, well, what if you have a mishap? Then all of a sudden you're like, I feel like I'm going backwards. Now I'm not progressing. Things aren't going well. The club was so good for me that it's like, do what you want. Don't come back into the club for as long as you need. And I was like, for me, it's never been what I was about or even contemplate doing that. I was like, nah, I'll check out a hospital, I'll come straight to the club. That's generally what I wanted to do. Is like I wanted to be able to contribute really quickly. But this time around, it was like when I couldn't pick Xander up when I was in hospital, like I physically couldn't touch him. Like they weren't really allowed to come too close to me. And then I started thinking, I was like, well, fuck park footy for a minute. I was like, what if I can't contribute like the way that I used to for being Xander's dad? Like I can't do these activities and that. Like my arm was going to be okay, but I wasn't in the space of thinking that. I was like, maybe I had nerve damage all through my fingers, still got nerve damage in my thumb now. I was like, well, am I going to be alright? But the club was so good in like, they go, nah, don't come in until you feel like you're you. I was like, great. So I was like, see how long this can take. And I was like, I'll test it out. But I ended up taking the week. So I took like 8 days and settled back in at home. Just got full 24/7 family time for a full week. So I almost felt like I charged the batteries right up. Mentally I felt great. Physically I started like, Carly was just like, take every day as it comes, just tick off like little milestones each day without having like projecting of like you need to do this by a certain time. And that instantly made me, I was like, it got to a point like 6 weeks later, I was like, things are looking pretty good. Like they're ticking over, I'm running, like I've started to do gym, I was like, things are feeling good. I still didn't want to project too far forward. And then all of a sudden, like 6 weeks after that, I'm playing. I was like, well, and then fortunate enough, I ended up playing the last 8 games of the year. We win the flag, and it's like, I look at Carly and he's like, do you reckon it was worth it? I was like,
that's unreal.
It's testing. It definitely wasn't a straight yes. But it's like, I think, again, like I put so much reliance on Carly for my Monday to Friday stuff. But then again, like she didn't sign up for all this stuff that's happened because it puts everything on stress. Your relationship at home, your mood swings, which ultimately affects your relationship.
Yeah.
And my communication had never really been a strong point of mine with how I was feeling. So that got tested at times as well. So
did you ever use, I mean, you talked Jackie at Collingwood and stuff, but maybe during Melbourne, did you ever have periods of like therapy psych? Like, was that something that you've, I don't know, like, or something that you've gone to, or just in that space? I'm just curious on.
Nah, so I used Jackie a little bit, and yeah, I never spoke to any external sources away from that. Again, like I still reckon I could definitely benefit from doing some form of that, because there's still stuff within me that I probably hold back 9 years ago from the passing of mum and that. There's definitely something that you could probably potentially get off your chest, no doubt.
Yeah.
But it's something that I haven't it hasn't come full circle back to me yet. Like it's like I still probably chat openly with like my close mates, and even like I reckon I could talk a lot more to Carlia. Like it's just something it's never really. It's probably something that I've just struggled with, being fully open about the whole scenario and how I'm feeling on a day-to-day basis, let alone everything that's happened. But I anytime I do it, like I instantly feel better. So I was like, well, why wouldn't you do it more? Why don't you find time? Why don't you find time to do it?
But even as guys, I think it's a lot harder. Like, like I feel like women and females are just so much better at emotionally talking. Like that's why I think it's like important just to have those chats and be more open. I think we're getting better as a society, but you look at, it's a lot. As guys, like you see a mate that might be struggling. It's like it's hard sometimes to. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
well, it's like you almost don't want to tread on their toes, but at the same time, it's like, well, you want to show them that you care. Exactly. So where's the balance? Everyone means well. It's like it's hard. And I think it's become a bit more common now. But you're right. Especially women are a little more. I think they're a bit more emotionally equipped to be able to talk to one another like that. Yeah. I think it's definitely changing. Like that whole perception with guys is changing. I think AFL pushing it pretty good. Like the Spud Frawley game's really good, but that's just like 1 week they shine a light on it. It's like we could probably do a little bit more.
And there's this like silent epidemic of like, I was talking to someone else about it, just like this like isolation and everything else. Like we're just there's not as much like, for a lot of people, you're just stuck at home and on your phone, and just like connection is.
COVID was ultimately one of the worst things that could have possibly have happened, especially for Victorians. Yeah. Like we were locked down for 355 days or something. What are you going to do? Yeah. Like if there's only like you can potentially go for a quick walk or something. Yeah. You weren't allowed to see anyone. So then all of a sudden it's like you're stuck at your house with what do you got? You got your devices. Yeah. And I feel like we're still sort of feeling that effects onwards. Oh, there's no doubt, because like you become accustomed to the environment that you're in. Yeah. So when you're locked down for a year and you've just got your phone and your partner, like we didn't have any kids at the time. Yeah. It's pretty hard. It's hard to rewire what you've just been doing for a long period of time. I think that's where the phone thing really escalated.
I think so too.
And especially for us, because we felt like we were missing out on so much away from Victoria. Everyone was still doing a lot of things, but we could just see it. We weren't involved in it. And then again, the comparison thing, like, why the fuck can they do that? We can't do anything.
It's crazy.
But being on your phone for 6 hours a day,
it's not. No.
Some people are like worse than that now. But I think that's probably a lot of it stemmed from there.
That's why I think it's so important finding something that you can, do daily and get out. And if it's footy or if it's just doing some outlet or something, like I think it's because it can get, I don't know, man. Like especially, I just think of a lot of 20-year-olds and stuff. It can be tough out there,
It definitely can be. Like, I think they're the hardest generation to go through at the moment. Anyone that's kind of in that bracket of probably 16 to 23, 25. It's going to be really, really hard. Like it's been a pretty hard, rough, like 6 years, 8 years. And there's not too much light at the end of the tunnel. I can't see yet. But again, like as long as you're practicing some form of thing to keep yourself in a bit more of a positive manner, then it can only help. But it is hard. Yeah.
One other thing I want to ask you was, it sort of comes up in these chats too, like spirituality and religion and stuff like that. Do you think much about? Have you ever thought? Has it ever been a pillar of your life of, I don't know, some sort of religion or spirituality or life after death? And I don't know if with what happened to your mum, do you think much about that sort of space? Out of curiosity?
Definitely. So like, I've been lucky enough to have a really good relationship with Trevor Hendy for probably the best part of 8 years now, and he's heavily involved or heavily invested in the spirituality and side of things like that, and we have constant chats all the time, and like he's all over it, and he's like, he picks up on people's energy, and like we have these unbelievable chats, and it's almost just like this build up of like emotion and energy, and then all of a sudden it's like he's on cloud 9, full blown frothing, and I was just like,
who is he? Sorry,
Trevor Hendy. So he's the greatest Ironman to have ever been.
Right.
So he used to be like the pillar boy for the Nutrigrain guy.
Oh, true.
And
so you guys have these.
So we have a really great connection, and he's all about it. And if you need an experience on how to live your life, like he would be one to potentially just watch. He's got this beautiful house out in the hinterland. He's got his own little waterfall in his backyard.
Yeah.
He could not have a phone for the rest of his life, and it wouldn't faze him.
Yeah.
Wouldn't need it.
That's
him and his family, beautiful family, and they do unreal things. And I think he's kind of like drip feeding a little bit of it throughout.
What sort of stuff?
And he works a lot with the leadership group.
Yeah.
And what works best for each individual, and kind of chats to them as well. And like he's got influence with Nick. Like him and Dakes catch up a lot, which is great. Like he comes down for a few days and flies back home, then comes down for a few days. So he's not full time, but when he comes down, he has a good impact. And he's got a lot of past experiences. So to share those with athletes and people and staff at the club, I feel like he's been a pretty good attribute for us moving forward, and will continue to be, I reckon, because he's had a massive impact with Fly.
Yeah. That's unreal, man. So you personally, do you feel like you've had any out of body, like, or just things that have? I mean, I'm sure like losing your mum was probably something that, like, when you talked about that period, it felt like it was like this. I mean, I feel like grief can do that in a sense of you're sort of not even in this reality in a sense for a bit of that time. Like you're processing something that's like, I don't know.
I reckon I've had moments of feeling like I've felt like my mum was there.
Oh, really?
There's been moments of that for sure.
That's great.
And I reckon initially it scared the fuck out of me, but then after that I just craved to get something like that again. And I reckon I've had stuff like that where it makes me think about it, and I was just like, and then all of a sudden I start thinking about it a bit more, and then it's like where I go to, I'm not too sure, but it's not something that I constantly read up or think about and like go into massive deep dives. But there's been moments of like feelings, whether it's passings or stuff like that, where it's just like it triggers like a thought, and then I was like, I instantly make like, it's like I said before, it scared me originally, but then post that I was like, fuck, I was like, maybe she's telling me something. Like something's going on.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
but the thing is, you don't even need to read up on it. Like that's something that's personal to you. Like you're not going to get the end. Like that's just something that you interpret how you want it. You know.
So it's like so small moments like that is probably as close to it as I've had. But again, like even just like I get small like experiences, even just having a phone call with Trev, like I touched on before, because he's fueling it flat out and he loves it, and it's great because to me, he seems like he's just got strike the perfect balance. He always seems incredibly happy. Got a great work ethic, and the people around him have a great time. So he's probably one that probably inspires many, I reckon.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
I love that. We'll wrap it up pretty soon. What else did I have on here? I guess I sort of leave it on sometimes, like, you know, what you'd say to your younger self. I sort of always sort of leave it one of the last questions on that, and like what you'd say to maybe, you know, young people getting in the spaces you've been in, and footy or life, and being, you know, mid-30s now and kids and stuff like that.
I think I would definitely have that quote as early as I could read and I could understand it. The comparison is the thief of joy. I was like, it's something that I feel like in any scenario is a great constant reminder, especially the space we live in now. Nothing's ever as good as it is, and nothing's never as bad. So it's like, don't ride the emotional wave that life gives you at any given time. It's like, just live a lot more constant, consistent lifestyle where you're not chasing highs, because I feel like if you fall off them, they're equally met with an incredible low. And I used to ride the emotional roller coaster when I was at Melbourne. It was really, really hard, and it just wasn't me. I started getting stripped of who I was. I was a really happy, young, happy-go-Larry kid, and then I just felt like I got stripped of that. So that'd probably be the most important things, and I feel like that just keeps you in a pretty steady frame of mind. So the chances of emotionally going all over the shop, I feel like decreases a fair bit. So I think you know, it probably enhances you being happy, being healthy. It's like, I've been fortunate enough to always be healthy, but something like that keeps you, like, you don't have to be fit, but you got to find activities to try and keep you outdoors, or doing some form of activity away from any form of tech.
Seriously, man.
So you get pulled down pretty quickly by that. So find a passion regardless of what it is. It doesn't have to be fitness, but do something.
Yeah. Do you feel like also, when you're talking about the highs and lows, like, do you feel like also taking on praises can be something negative too? Like, you know, when you see it in, you know, people that are in the media, but like, do you feel that criticism and praise can almost be the same thing, because it is this high of like this emotion of like what you're saying of whatever it is, negative or positive, like keeping a sort of level head on.
And that's, like, where I think it's like important to get the feedback from those that are important and the ones that you're willing to listen to. Like, because again, like, if you get high praise, it's almost like you almost feel uncomfortable about accepting it, but then also if you're getting criticised, you're like, well, fuck you. I was like, I don't want to hear it. Like, it's like, so is any of it any good? So it's like, my only advice would be to take it from the ones that you respect and care about, because ultimately they're the ones that are there for you. If you want to just listen to the news, or you want to look yourself up and try to get some instant feedback, it's not too hard to find.
Especially for you, mate.
That's why I deleted it all.
No Twitter. Does I have anything else? I think we're pretty much pretty good. I think I'll leave it on. The last sort of one was when do you think you felt most human or most vulnerable in that sense? Like, has it been, if you look at it, like, has there been a moment where you've, you know, felt most you to the core, beyond all these fucking things that we've talked about, identities and shit like that? Leave it on that.
The most vulnerable I've ever felt was trying to what was it? No, the most vulnerable I ever felt was doing my mum's eulogy in front of a record attendance at Hobart funeral. So it was like, no one could fit in. Like, everyone was lined up outside, and you couldn't get in. And I was a 25-year-old kid trying to talk about, had the weight on my shoulders, trying to talk about my mum and do her proud, and then at the same time, but just tell the people of what I felt. My brother did one after me, because I was like, I'll do it. And then my brother's like, well, if you're doing it, I'll do it. And then my dad's like, well, if you two are doing it, I feel like I need to do it. And I was like, I didn't have to. But that's as raw and emotional as I've ever been for 15 minutes straight. And I really, like, but once I got off and got it rolling, the words started flowing, and you're chatting about positive things. You chuck a couple of rib ticklers in there, a couple of gags to kind of settle the nerves. But pure raw emotion, that's about as vulnerable as you'll ever see me. And then we also did a who am I? So you talk about your life experiences, like your highs in your life, your challenges and hardships throughout. And I did one under Fly when he first got to the club in a training camp. And there was about 100 people on that camp, where there was a lot of new faces.
Just like all staff and stuff,
And I stood it and told it in the middle of the scrub. And it was like, you could not hear a thing. And I was bawling my eyes out, crying in front of everyone. And at that stage, I was like 28. Felt like I was in the prime of my career. Body's great. I was like, yep, everything's going well. And then I just melt down and cry in front of the whole club. And then instantly I felt like I was going to fall over. And then the whole joint just comes in, sweeps you up, cuddles you. And that's just when you feel like he's like, yep, this joint's got me. And then from that moment on, I was like, there is no chance that I'll ever let anyone like feel so low that they feel lonely. And I feel like that's what we do at the club really well. So no one should ever feel like that. And I know I'm certainly a beneficiary of the people at the club, because they've been an unbelievable support. So as equally as vulnerable as I was through the club, was met with equal care straight back, and it just instantly made me feel so good. So pretty crazy.
Vulnerability's, I think, important, man. I think it's okay to, you know, just
so a person that inspired me in that is, like, we did a similar exercise, and I watched Scott Pendlebury cry in front of me,
Yeah.
And I was like, I just instantly forgot about that he even played footy, and I just wanted to give him.
Because you see him as a human, you forget.
I just wanted to give him a hug.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I've never seen him like that. You just assume everything's great.
Yeah.
But everyone's got
especially
stuff
these
going on.
idols and stars. Like, you know, you see people see him. Like, to know that, you know, you and Pendles are still human. You know, like.
And it was like, well, if he's doing that, the least I can do is return serve and be vulnerable as well. And I ended up doing something, obviously that I touched on before, but it's amazing how those things, because I think everyone's scared of it.
It is,
because they're worried about the feedback that you're probably going to get presented with, but you'd like to think with good people around, you're going to get an overwhelmingly positive experience. So
that's why I think it's so important to have these chats for other people, just to know that, you know, everyone's gone through. Yeah. Not gone, but just the things come up and you work through it, and
100%.
And here you are now, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So, thanks heaps.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. That was unreal.
Well,
thanks, man.
Appreciate it. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Peace.